How you doing, sir?
Not too bad, mate. How are you?
I'm good.
I must admit, in all the years we've been doing the Rock Pit, we've never spoken to you before. So it's first time. Welcome. How are you?
Damn it, it's about time. Absolutely.
It is, because I think the first time I saw you was Nottingham Rock City back in 1989, I reckon.
Whereabouts? Nottingham Rock City with Creator.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the Hells Angels and the Speed and the Knives backstage. Yeah, scary people. Yeah.
Nice. Those were the days, eh? Good to see you back. I narrowly missed. I was out of the country when you came over last time with girls' school, so sadly missed that one. But hopefully getting over to see you in Melbourne. So
Excellent.
it's a sneaky visit. You're also playing. Well, you got dates in Japan as well, and also one in
Yeah,
Singapore.
we fly out tomorrow. Of course, most of this journey is going to be bloody flying than anything else, but that's just the way it is. Singapore, we play on the 3rd. We are playing Melbourne on the 8th, and Sydney, which is the Steel Assassins Festival thing, on the 9th. And then we've got Tokyo on the 12th and Osaka on the 14th.
Excellent. Yeah, nice little trip for you. Happy 50th birthday, I think.
It is. It's been quite the year. It didn't start out that way, but it's ended up basically being a world tour. So, and what better way to celebrate than to finish off in good old Oz? So that's great.
Exactly. Back in the day, I was one of the people who never ever got rid of my vinyl, and I must admit I revisited a couple of albums before we talked. One of the things that obviously is a big part of the story is the fact that the very first ever tour with Metallica, who've just announced that they're playing Australia next year. Um, Back in the day, though, let's take it even further back. When Raven formed, what were you listening to? What inspired you to get up there for the first time?
Well, way back, when we formed the band
Hmm.
50 years ago, it was, Slade, Sweet, Status Quo, T-Rex. That was the stuff that was on top of the pops.
Yeah.
And then through older friends or whatever, we got into, Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, and we were going to, I think we'd been to our first show in '73, which was Slade with the sensational Alex Harvey band opening. So that ruined our lives right there. It didn't get any better than that. It
Yeah.
really doesn't. It's like, it was mind blowing.
It did.
So,
One of
that was our education. We had all these bands come to Newcastle City Hall, which was a small 2,000, maybe 2,200 seater theatre. And you get to see these bands up close and personal. It was unbelievably lucky.
Yeah, it was great time for music. So many different bands that played on the bill, even with you in the early days. I was looking at some of the lineups that you played with, and it wasn't just sort of like genre-based stuff. You were getting to see some great acts playing together. You played with some punk bands early on.
We did. We played with a band called The Motors, who had at least one hit single.
Mm.
Uh, Complete jerks, every one of them. And the funny thing is, both those bands are the only bands we've ever played with where you can't use the PA. You have to bring your own PA to the show. I've
Right.
never heard of that before or since. But yeah, we played with the Stranglers
Yeah.
in, I believe, '76. And hilariously enough, the guitar player, Hugh Cornwell, came up and said, "Anyone got perfect pitch?" I goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Give me an A." So I go, he tunes up the guitar, walks on stage, and they start playing. Talk about faith.
Wow.
Pretty funny.
I love that one.
But that was an education because we'd heard about this thing called punk rock, and all we'd seen was one video of the Sex Pistols. So you got all these lunatics smashing glasses and spitting at each other. It was just like, oh my God. And that, of course, dominated the next few years. And, we were playing pubs and clubs, and it made it tough. But we'd end up playing for punk audiences, and they loved it because we had that energy,
Yeah.
and we could play as well, which was the bonus.
Yeah, and he kept going as well. A lot of bands obviously dropped off over the few years, but you and Mark had sort of made it all the way through to the end. That's an incredible feat, I guess, in itself, playing with your brother for so many years.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a gazillion ups and downs. I mean, we were very lucky, but we worked hard, and we took chances and took opportunities. Like, Johnny Z took us to the States for the first time in '82. We played a few shows, and he says, "Oh, let's do a headline tour next year." So, okay, fine. I've got a great opening band for you. Biggest band in San Francisco. Like, nah. There's like a million big bands from San Francisco. I mean, come on.
We must put
Sammy Hagar, Journey, Metallica. Who? Never heard of them.
Yeah.
They send us a tape and put it on. It's like, is this at the right speed? Because it sounded like Motorhead or 78 on your record player, So, that was their first tour opening for us. And then we did the same the following year with Anthrax. We took them out. And, because it had happened to us, we had the opportunity from Ozzy. Ozzy heard our first single on the radio and said, "I want those guys."
Yeah, I mean, you went
It's
out.
literally from him saying, "I want those guys," that we got to play 4 dates on the Blizzard of Oz tour.
You went out with some great bands back in the day. I was looking at some of the dates you with Maiden as well, Motorhead, Whitesnake, all those guys.
Yeah, we played the Marquee with Iron Maiden. It'd be like, July 1980, I think. Gary Moore cancelled. With a day's notice, we went and did 2 shows of Whitesnake, which was incredible. Dressing room door opens and in walks our heroes, John Lord and Ian Pace. I mean, we were floored.
Yeah. Does it get
absolutely wonderful guys, total gentlemen, oh, you guys were awesome, blah, blah, keep it up and all the rest of it. Great. Motorhead, and over the years, like Judas Priest, even got into a spitting match with Yngwie Malmsteen. Wonderful.
Yeah, nice. He's he's a character. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, exactly. He seems to have mellowed very slightly, which is good.
It's good. And he always comes to play his guitar very loudly for us every now and again as well. I think
you probably hear him from Florida, to be honest. But there you go.
I think you could hear him from the moon last time. Just couldn't hear any of the other instruments, sadly. But there you go. So 50 years, you had your ups and downs. You got caught up, I guess, in the new wave of British heavy metal scene. Was that really a scene? Was it just a...
Well, it was... I look at it as an era. It was a period of time. There was a lot of kids who didn't like punk. They liked heavy music. And they were like getting inundated with punk. And they're like, let's make our own music. That's basically what we did. And a lot of other kids did too. And it all just organically happened at the same time, that there was a bunch of people who formed bands who had a lot of passion, had a lot of energy. But there's no new wave of British heavy metal sound. That's what people talk about, is something that kind of distilled after a few years, where all the bandwagon jumpers came on and everyone started going... all the same riff on every song. Every band had one, I guess. But all those original bands, like ourselves and Iron Maiden and Angel Witch and Samson and Def Leppard, they're all completely different.
Yeah.
Completely different. You know, no middle ground. All they had was that passion and energy.
Yeah. Well,
And after probably 3.5, 4 years, the press got bored with it and moved on to whatever else, you know.
yeah, as they do. But you guys have kept going, which is fantastically fantastic. Um, what made you want to be a musician in the first place? Was it that Top of the Pops? Was it seeing those gigs? Is that what got you up?
Yeah, seeing that, seeing the Slade and Alex Harvey, that was just magical. It was absolutely magical, and it was just like, you know, it was almost unspoken, but it was like, I want to do that.
And how long was
Uh,
it before you actually got
we
up
like
on
a year
stage?
later, it was 74. My brother and Paul Bowden, the guy we started the band with down the street, came up and said, "We're going to form a band, and you can play the bass." And all we had was an acoustic guitar, and I'd been tuning it down, you know, trying to learn bass lines.
Mm.
So we bothered our parents. We want electric guitars. We want electric guitars. Well, you know, they didn't have two pennies to rub together, but they got us, you know, cheap copy electrics for Christmas and said, "You're on your own." You know, we see the rabbit hole. We see the prices of things. No, no, not gonna happen. So, you know, we go out and wash cars and do people's gardens or whatever, or beg, borrow, and steal. We used to go to the building sites when they were tearing houses down and find like old radiograms and took an amplifier out. It was a, you know, a valve tube amplifier, and if you put the wires where the stylus was and connected it to a cord, you could play a guitar through it.
Mm.
If you touch the wrong wire, you get one hell of a shock. But
Uh,
so
what
we used
was
to do, and we had an uncle who lived down the street who had a TV repair shop, and he was very helpful, you know, telling us how to wire things up and not get electric shocks and stuff like that.
I guess the question for any sort of like young band like that is when did you realize that it was serious? How long did that take? Was a defining moment or
We were always serious about it, but
yeah,
we had, because it was the greatest thing. I mean, I remember we when my parents were out, we'd bring the gear into the living room, and of course the neighbors loved us. They
yeah,
banging on the door and trying to kill us. We'd borrowed a drum kit off Paul's sister, who used to play drums but didn't, and none of us could play drums, so we're just banging away, making a noise. And one day, I think it was Paul dropped his guitar,
yeah,
and it made this glorious sound, and it bounced. So we did it again, and that's when it started. The whole banging the guitars around and smashing stuff up all came from an accident of dropping something.
because you
But
used to hit the
we did our first gig 1975 at our school, at our high school. Played a bunch of covers and about 3 or 4 originals, and then did it again a few months later. Rented out a church hall, sold tickets for that, and then we got into playing the clubs and the pubs, and did that from like 76 right through till early 80. So that was our apprenticeship. That's where we learned the ropes of facing an apathetic or aggressively angry crowd and turning them onto, you know, getting them onto your side.
yeah, it's fantastic. And you had your ups and downs over the years, got signed to a major label. I think how was that experience? Because Neat obviously looked after you, I think, pretty well. And then of course they
Uh, no, they didn't.
didn't
No.
they?
Neat was like a 1.5 man operation. Literally, you know, I'm going to put you through the A&R department. Hits pause, holds the phone over to the 18-year-old kid on work experience who was the A&R guy. But in all fairness, you know, if it hadn't been for Neat Records, I don't know that we were, you know, it was like being in Cairns, Australia, and your record companies were in Sydney. You know, it was that was the, yeah, it was 250 miles away, which might as well have been the moon. But because Neat had just had success with a couple of singles with the Tigers of Pantang
Mm.
and Fist and White Spirit, we were like the the next one, and we put a single out, and it did fantastic, and it changed our lives. And that was on Neat, you know. So, and the first album, and you know, the next two, because the way the record business works, of course, they already had the token Iron Maiden and Def Leppard and one or two others, and it was like, okay, that's it, we're done. It's like, okay. So we just said, well, we deal with the devil we know and just keep pushing and see what happens. And ended up making our own look, you know. But Atlantic was awful. Atlantic was everything you see in Spinal Tap at the beginning of the movie. Literally, without word of a lie. People who were completely vacuous, had no idea what was going on. They could have been selling baked beans.
Yeah.
They didn't care.
I mean, that,
and then you have, you know, somebody to decide like, oh, well, I want, you know, tell them to do this, tell them to do that, which all culminated with our second Atlantic album, which was pushed to be very commercial. And we did it, and they didn't support it. And we had a very come to Jesus moment where we all had a meeting and just said, you know, I'd rather fall playing what we love than to exist playing what some other idiot wants us to do. So we did the Mad EP, and from then on out, it was just like, you know, no more producers. It's all us.
Yeah,
we get engineers to help us out, but that would be it.
Yeah, I must admit, I do love the website, Raven Lunatics, and also obviously Raven Mad, the EP that you talked to there. I always smile when I hear those. It's
we had a funny moment in South America. Somebody had the Mad EP and handed it on stage, and I gave it to Mark, and he was holding it next to his head and playing one hand. Very surreal.
Because of course it's got his face is on that, isn't it? On the front cover.
Mark is very animated. Very, very. I mean, we're all animated, but Mark is more animated than most. He has a rubber face and uses it to accentuate every crazy note he plays. So yeah.
Was there any thought of longevity, or was it just the fact that you were never going to give up? Like, could you as a kid imagine that in 50 years' time you'd still...
No, not a chance.
No.
You just take things as they come, and there was periods like, you know, we did the Life's a Bitch album. The record company dragged us putting it out when we were on tour. So we came back and it was like, let's regroup, let's do a showcase for the record company, get them all to see us, get them on our side. And they never turned up. I mean, they turned up like 3 hours early and then just left. So that was like, well, we got to get off the record company. And at that point, Rob quit the band. Our drummer, Rob Hunter, at the time, he had other issues and had a kid on the way. So he decided that was time to jump ship. So there we were, stuck in America with, you know, nothing. And having people saying, well, maybe we start a new band and we do this and do that. And I kicked back and went, no, fuck no. Are you mental? Says, we've been through worse than this. We'll just soldier on. So we got another drummer, Joe Hasselvander, and got another deal and kept on fighting and kicking it out, you know.
And still making great music as well. I mean, Extermination, I loved when that came out. Must be about 10 years ago now. And but since then, Metal City and all Hell's Breaking Loose, great Raven albums. It's still...
Yeah, and we did a Killer Live record, which came out, I think, in 2018, maybe 2019. Yeah, that was because we were having issues recording Metal City, so we said we need something out. So we were digging through, and Mike had found a memory stick that someone had given him after a show in Denmark. Yeah, I recorded your set, and he'd never listened to it, and he plugged it in. He goes, "This thing's unbelievable." He says, "You broke a string on Hell Patrol, so there's like 5 seconds missing a bass." So we just cut and paste and fixed that, and boom. Other than that, it was great. So that was cool. And that introduced everyone to Mike, and it was a good bridge between Extermination to Metal City, you know. But yeah, I mean, after Mark's terrible accident in 2001, it took us a while to get back on the horse. And that was planting the flag with Walk Through Fire, which was a good record. We just said, okay, we start here. And we upped our game for Extermination. We put a lot more work into pre-production, and we're very hypercritical about the songs, getting it together, and just have been working on that ethic of, you know, does this song deserve to be on the album? And does this song, this part, does it deserve to be in? Is there something better? Do we cut it out? Do, you know, really questioning every item of it. And then at the end of the day, leaving 25–30% to go apeshit and improvise stuff, because that's where the magic happens.
Yeah, it is. It
you
is.
know, you plot it all out, planned spontaneity, I guess, you know.
Right. First time we speak to people, we ask them the same two questions. There will be a book out next year, actually, for the second one, but nice, easy ones for you. If you could have been a fly on the wall for the creation of any great album, any point in the history of music, what would you love to have seen being made?
Really? Yes.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That surprises me. It's a great album. Love it. But
oh, yeah. That's, you see, that's pure genius at work there. It really is. That's an album I've been listening to since it came out. And you'll always find some little nook and cranny in there, like, how did they do that?
Yeah.
How did they come up with this? How is the interplay between the freaking three guys or four guys? It's just unbelievable. Yeah. Unbelievable.
Great album, without saying. We'll leave you with an easy one. What is the meaning of life?
Other than 42, the meaning of life is volume.
Fantastic.
Turn it up to 11 and then a bit more.
That's brilliant. So 15th birthday this year. We're collecting birthday wishes. If you wouldn't mind saying who you are and wishing us a happy birthday, we'll stitch them all together at the end of the year and put a big compilation in.
I think. Let me just take a little look at what I've got there. Where are we? Not that one. It is. So it's Rock Pit, right?
That's right.
All right. So 15th birthday.
It is.
Let's do it. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is John Gallagher from Raven, and we are wishing Mark and Rock Pit happy birthday. 15 years of heavy metal, rock, kick-ass music, and many more to follow. Thank you.
And thank you so much, John. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I'll get this one up quickly and get it out there. Hopefully the tour will go, without a hitch, and we'll see you again soon.
Absolutely, man. Hope to see you there.
Take care, mate.
Take care, mate. Cheers.